Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And this is ReDIScover, a conversation where we travel through everything that makes up the essence of who we are and how to live authentically and imaginatively.
Here, we invite you to join us as we explore and discuss a little bit of, well, everything.
From Disney to cultivating your most authentic life to deepening your relationships and talking about the real stuff.
We hope you'll find this a space that speaks to you, encourages you, and brings a little bit of magic into your day.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jess.
Hi, guys. I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to our podcast, ReDIScover. Today, we thought we would talk about our experience during this whole pandemic and how we've incorporated self-care into that and using that as a way to propel us forward when everything is going a little crazy around us.
Yeah.
So,
when the world feels like it's stopping dead in its tracks, how you can find a way to still, work on your dreams and stay productive. We had very different, almost opposite extremes of our realities when COVID first hit.
My journey with this whole COVID thing actually started in January. I was visiting my boyfriend in China. He was teaching out there, and we were on a trip, and this experience really gave me perspective on the grand scheme of how this was going to go. We had gone to Harbin, China to see some ice castles, and then we flew back to where he was living in Nanjing. And our next moves, we were going to go to Shanghai Disney and Hong Kong Disney, of course, surprise.
Of course.
And the day before we were supposed to go to each park, the parks closed. And that was insane. Disney parks never close.
Yeah, unless there's like a hurricane or...
Exactly. And I guess this was a hurricane in its own way. We ended our trip to China early and both flew back to the States. My boyfriend got to come back with me, which was really good, instead of living on opposite sides of the world for...
During a global pandemic.
Yeah,
so fun.
It was, yeah. We were in the, on a subway, and this sweet little Chinese man gave us masks because we were foreigners there, and we were like, okay, because everyone was wearing them because it suddenly got so severe. Just trying to be as safe as possible. And then got back to the States, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was really crazy. This thing all happened, and everyone's like, oh wow,
yeah,
we didn't no one understood here how severe it was.
Talking to you about it, and you being like, yeah, it was crazy. We almost didn't get out. Everything was shutting down. Everyone's freaking out. But I remember just thinking oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, wow.
Hope it doesn't come here.
Yeah. I think even at the time too, I didn't even fully understand.
I'm looking up our conversation. I literally said, hey, also, don't get the crazy coronavirus. This was January 27th?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
And you said, OMG, don't worry, we won't. We're actually cutting the trip short and flying back to Orlando together tonight. You were like, Steven's coming too. It's just not safe here right now. And you just said, we'll just go to Disney World.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's insane. How scary. I asked you if they were letting people fly out, and you were like, yes, thank God. But that's why we want to go sooner rather than later, because we don't want them to close the borders.
And at the time, I said that, and I did not understand that they actually would severely close the borders. And the moment I knew that this was going to be an issue was when we got off the plane. There was no checkpoint.
Yeah.
We had to check off a sheet. It said, have you been to Wuhan, China? Check no. Okay, come on in. And
that is insane to me. That's crazy.
And Steven was like, oh my God.
That's literally the floodgate.
I was like, oh my God. So yeah, by that point we were like, okay, how are you feeling? I'm feeling okay. Are you feeling okay? What, a month and a half later, it hit in Florida. And again, we're at Disney and we're all like, what if they shut the parks down? Nah, it'll never happen.
Because Disney just never
It doesn't
closes.
close. It's closed for 9/11 and hurricanes. That's it.
It still kind of went on. It was never a full-on deserted ghost town shutdown.
I think it was actually Friday the 13th. And I was I was planning to go up to Buffalo to see my family and meet Steven over here because he was seeing his mom. And I got off of work that day, and I was sitting in my kitchen with my friend Sarah, and she was like, oh my God, sports are not continuing. Like, sports are getting canceled.
Yeah.
Like, was it basketball at the time? I don't know.
March Madness.
I don't know sports, but I was like, oh, that's serious. And then the Jonas Brothers canceled their Las Vegas concert, and that's serious. And basically, like, big concerts, sporting events, like, all these things were getting canceled. And still at the time, everyone's like, oh my God, this is so serious. But also, like, are they overreacting? Like, nobody knew. Yeah, that next morning, I was like, all right, I'm going home to my family's house, and I'm just gonna stay put. Thankfully, I was with my mom and my dad, and my boyfriend was here too, and my dog, Penny. So then, all of a sudden, a trip to my hometown turned into trip quarantine.
I feel like that happened to so many people, though, because
Exactly.
a lot of people were, especially when, you know, Disney shut down.
The biggest plus of the whole thing was getting to spend time with family. I ended up going from, like, you know, living a really pretty busy lifestyle. And you know what? Having more free time is so interesting, because I think one thing I noticed was I tend to live in, like, a time scarcity mindset, which
Me too, for sure.
I hate it. And I think that's one of the things I really want to shift in my life moving forward. But given that perspective of, okay, I don't have enough time. Okay, now you're given all of this time.
Almost like asking yourself, like, what did you wish you had more time for beforehand?
Yeah.
Like, what were you going to do with it if you had it?
And like, okay, I was working, and it was like, okay, now you have nothing but free time. And I think that was almost, for my little human brain, it was almost overwhelming, because you're like, oh my gosh, I can do anything.
Yeah.
But then a lot of days you're just so overwhelmed and anxious. And a big lesson of that was, like, learning that's okay too.
Yeah. I think the whole world learned that collectively.
Yeah, like being okay with relaxing.
Especially in this country, you're considered successful if you work all the time. If you're hustling, you're considered successful. You're this country's definition of, like, a productive member of society, especially for our generation that's constantly stimulated. It was kind of this moment to be like, oh, it's actually okay if I just want to, like, stay in my pajamas today.
That is a huge permission to give yourself and be okay with. And it was like, okay, what do I really want to do? Like, do I want to do a puzzle today? Do I want to watch a movie? Do I want to read a book? And then I started giving myself tasks of those kinds of things to do. And then evaluate, like, how you really feel when you're doing these things. Like, are you doing these things because you want to check all these things off your list, or are you doing them because they really fulfill you? Taking my dog for a walk in the park was super fulfilling to me. Like, I was getting fresh air, I was out in nature, I was spending time with people I loved and my dog, and, like, that was fulfilling. So that was a huge way to fill up my quarantine cup.
Yeah. I'll give my opposite extreme, and then we'll get to the point where we really ended up coming from two very opposite extremes as far as our experience went at the beginning of it, and kind of how we ended up in the same place now. So it's interesting, because for me, at the time that COVID hit, I was working full time as a restaurant manager. So when COVID hit for us, as the weeks, you know, went on and the rule went into place for New York State that you could only seat restaurants at half capacity, we had to modify our whole service. So we couldn't just, you know, seat walk-ins and pack the restaurant on a Friday night. And the following week we had a meeting and we were like, so what do we do? What are other restaurants doing? We were kind of trying to look to, like, New York City at the time, because they were a little ahead of us with the shutdown, to see, like, how restaurants were functioning and serving people. And it became like takeout, and it was like me and two other people running this whole thing and figuring it out as we went, because we had no idea what we were doing, and it changed pretty much every day, and it evolved over several months. But I went from, you know, working some overtime, but not a disturbing amount, to working like 65 hours a week, and I was staying with my family. My entire family was going to lock down, like they were going to completely quarantine themselves. And I knew, for me, that kind of free time scared me. Like, I had anxiety surrounding not working or not having something to keep me busy, and just being all holed up together really made my anxiety kick up, because I have this, my anxiety is very deeply rooted in feeling stuck, and what's more stuck than a quarantine. So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to find a place to stay. And I ended up finding an apartment, like, within less than a week, and moving and I remember packing like one suitcase and being like, okay, I only need this much stuff. Like, this will last a few weeks. I'll be home by April. And then I literally haven't gone home since. Throughout March, April, May, that was my life. Like, go to work for 12 to 14 hours a day, go home, pass out, get up, go to work for 12 to 14 hours a day, do the same thing. And on my day off, it would just be like, I called it my vegetable day because I was so exhausted from whatever that week just was that I just needed a day to just not exist.
I'm honestly proud of you for functioning on one day, because I would need like a month to
it was
recover.
Just it was all I had. So I would just like let myself sleep as late as my body wanted to, take like the longest hot shower of life, lay on the couch and watch Disney Plus. Thank God for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And just kind of veg out all day long and then do it all over again. And then, as summer came and as some things started to open up again, we were having patio dining and people were less afraid to be in public. Mask wearing was essential, but people were going out and about. I started to feel this like dissonance within me. I was like, okay, pandemic aside, I'm just like really unhappy. And at the beginning of July, I went on a road trip to Boston with some work friends just because we couldn't fly anywhere. New England was being just as cautious, if not more so, than New York was. We felt comfortable being there. We wore masks the whole time. We ate on patios and we got an Airbnb, and it was just a nice getaway. I hadn't been anywhere other than like the four walls of my apartment and my workplace for months. So I just really needed to get away. And I think it was there that like a lot of things came to light for me, and a lot of things like hit the fan, so to speak. And the final shoe just sort of dropped, and I realized like I really need to make a big change in my life. This pandemic has really made me realize what's important in life. I think it did that for a lot of people.
Yeah, you're not the only person I've heard say that. I almost think that the pandemic was like a huge shift because it brings huge awareness to your everyday life when you are forced to sit down and head-on look at it.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you had that moment.
Yeah.
And it made such a huge impact on you.
Yeah. I really just felt like I was going through the motions of my life. So on that trip, I decided that I was going to resign from my job. And everyone that I had spoken to was like, do not quit your job during a pandemic. You have a full-time job. You're not furloughed. You're not collecting unemployment. I never did. I'm still not. But I finally just had this moment where I just knew, I was still scared about what the future held, and I was still a little anxious, but I had this sense of peace that like, this is the right thing. This is the right thing for me. Yeah. I need to do this. So
when it's the right thing, it works out.
It works.
You genuinely feel that.
Yeah. Got back from the trip, and the next day I went into work and I sat my bosses down and I just said, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. And, since then it's given me, when you're not working 65 hours a week and exhausted whenever you're not working, it frees you up to like dream and imagine and plan your life a little. So, I've got a little part-time serving job, so I'm still busy. And I think having a physically demanding job is something I've kind of always had. And it's a good thing. It makes you tired in a good way. I still miss the Tiger King train completely because that was like when my life was at its ultimate crazy. I watched one episode and I was like,
it's wild.
No, this is not for me.
I'm never watching that. And it's like very like not my style. And I watched it and I was mesmerized. Like I don't know if I liked it, but
I get it though.
I got addicted to the feeling of like how insane it was. So,
and honestly, that was another thing. Like everyone had already finished it, so I knew what happened, and I was like, I don't have time for this. But
it's so funny how there were different eras of quarantine. Like Tiger King was the first era. I know TikTok got really big during quarantine, and I was avoiding it forever.
Me too.
And I still don't. I don't make them.
We don't make them.
I mean, I'm sure we'd be very talented at them if
sure
we
would
really
too.
decided to. But like,
it gives me anxiety. It's too short. I'm not that concise. I can't do it.
I'm telling you, people who make TikToks are talented. And it's not just like just fluffy entertainment. Like people give life hacks on there or like tips to help you.
I mean, it's definitely become like this versatile platform. But now Instagram has Reels, so that kind of feels like
Yeah, I don't know how
Instagram's robbing TikTok. But I don't make TikToks, but it's nice to like watch them now and be like, I have time for this, because I am someone who also experiences like real anxiety where time scarcity is concerned. And when you're working so much and you have so little free time that you're not spending being just like completely unconscious, it's hard to allow yourself to do those kinds of things, because you're like, I don't have that much free time. I shouldn't be spending my time doing this. I think everyone's journey has been different, but really like I started, you know, the pandemic hit and you found yourself with all this free time and I found myself with none, but we both ended up in this place where we are doing something creative that we want to do for ourselves. And
being aware of what you need, like what does your body need, what does your soul need, what does your mind need, and that was like a huge awakening for me during quarantine. I feel like in earlier years of my life, like it's easier to run away from emotions, it's easier to distract myself with traveling, it's like surrounding myself with friends all the time,
because
like,
nobody else can tell you what the right thing for you is. It's just something that it's something that's within you, and when you know it, you know it. Like I knew
you had to quit your job.
I knew I had to quit my job, even though everyone was telling me don't do it right now. I knew that I needed to do it, and I am so happy that I did. My life has a little less structure than it did before, and sometimes that causes me anxiety. But
maybe that's like a really cool opportunity for you to like dive into it and be like, why does it do
Lean into that space of like, why does it scare me to have free time?
Yeah, and what if I like embraced it?
Yeah.
Like, what could be created from that?
A podcast.
Yeah.
I think like we're similar people in that and I'm sure many of you are like this too. I mean, we would distract ourselves with social events, or I mean, when you live close to Disney, we distract ourselves. Like if you're bored, you can just go to Magic Kingdom or whatever, or just traveling, like planning spontaneous trips. We did things like that, and it never felt for me, or probably not for you, like running away from something, but it was just something that
in my earlier years,
did. Oh yeah, I definitely ran away sometimes. But when those things are taken away and you're sort of forced inward, you know, you can't travel, you can't see your friends, you are supposed to stay at home. So when you're sitting with your thoughts and your outward distractions are forcing you inward, what do you find there?
Yeah.
You know?
And there's so much. Like
there is. And it's different for everyone.
It's almost like, I know people say this a lot, but it's like having a relationship with yourself. Like it's almost like imagining there's two parts of you, and almost like your conscious and your subconscious self. Like what's really in that subconscious that you're not like seeing fully and looking at, like,
or maybe that you're ignoring. Because
like,
it's too much. Yeah, I'm thankful too, because for the first time in my life, I lived alone and I was forced into it, and I always had known that was something that I wanted to do, but for a long time my anxiety would not let me do it. It definitely forced me to have a relationship with myself. I just found little routines and rituals that make the days feel fulfilling, and they might just be little simple things like making myself coffee. I started buying myself flowers every weekend at the farmer's market. I will go and buy myself flowers. They'll like put together a bouquet for me, and then I take it home and I put it on my kitchen table, and it becomes like my little ritual. And then I wake up every morning and I go water my plants, and like it's such a simple little thing, and it's things that pre-pandemic we just did because we had to, like, okay, water the plants, take the dog out, things like that. And now it's like it's become a privilege almost. Things that used to feel like just whatever things that you would just have to do now feel like something you get to do.
Exactly.
And
I love
that is you growing gratitude in yourself. And when you walk in gratitude and you live in gratitude, even for simple little things, it not only affects the people around you, but it also makes your life so much easier to live. Like, life is hard. We're not denying that. But when you are thankful for the little things, and when you're thankful for the moments that you get to take for yourself, those moments become precious, and your life becomes a much sunnier place.
And like really focusing on gratitude like raises your overall vibration. Like that's those good vibes everybody talk about. It's like that's where you're filling up your cup and you're letting it overflow because of, I mean, little things like that. And I don't know. And then, I love getting excited over small things.
Yes. Like, I think that's always been part of our personality.
Seriously. And I just I found myself doing that so much more because And getting things taken away is such a, like, harsh thing to happen, but, like, when they do get taken away like that, it's like, whoa, I am so thankful and grateful and lucky that I get to do these things. And even if that's just, like, something super simple, like going to the grocery store, like you were saying too about those rituals you just kind of make for yourself. I think a big one I really got into, I've always sort of been into this, but, like, journaling is a big like self-care practice that I really took on, and just writing out either a gratitude list in the morning or whatever, like, all the millions of thoughts that are swirling in my head, and just getting them out on paper quiets down my mind so much.
We were joking, everyone started baking, and I definitely did that because it's methodical, because you have to pay attention to it, because it quiets your mind in that you have to focus on what you're doing, because if you mess up even a little bit, like, it's not going to turn out the way you want it to. You know, it's mindful in that you have to pay attention, but it also gives you, you're doing something creative and cathartic, so you can also let your mind drift away and dream a little bit too, and wander away, which I definitely did. Yeah. The banana bread trend so definitely happened.
If you made banana bread during quarantine, you definitely get to
send me pictures of your quarantine banana bread. I want to see it.
Yeah, but that's really cool that, like, baking it's like meditative, you know?
And it makes your house smell good and warm and comforting, like, when things are baking. I think for me, like you were talking about, taking, like, baths.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Like, Epsom salt baths, if you guys haven't done that before. Like, that also draws out toxins in your body. I learned from my
calms your
journey.
muscles down, too.
Also, too, you can just do straight up meditating, which is something I got more into. I've tried to get into meditating for years, and I'm still not every day consistent with it, but I think the more I research it and learn about it, like, breath work and meditation is such a huge...
Breath work is huge.
It's huge, and, like, I realize, like, I have to strengthen my diaphragm and things like that, and it really connects you with yourself. You can do meditations for, like, anxiety. You can do it if you want to shift, like, your money mindset, your relationship mindset, like, anything. And I used to listen to them while I would fall asleep, too, and I genuinely felt like I had a shift in my self, and it's just so cool. So even if you're not sitting up in a certain position and doing it, like, just starting to absorb those positive thoughts and affirmations into your brain.
Once you get this mindset, you start your day with this mindset, like no matter what comes, like, you have everything you need to handle it already within you, then it takes a lot of the fear and anxiety out of what is today going to bring, which for me, for a long time, every day was so different. That helped a lot with me, like, learning how to take things in stride, which is definitely something that I struggle with. And if you're someone who has anxiety, you know what that feels like. You know, you can't roll with the punches as much when your anxiety levels are high. You feel like something that in hindsight was probably pretty small happens, but it rocks your world so much.
I definitely got to a point, it was like crippling anxiety feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, I can't focus. Like, I just felt like I couldn't focus. I felt like I was exhausted, and like, and then I would go through phases of, like, eating healthy and then not eating healthy, and my stomach would flare up, and it was just like, okay, you need to take all this pressure off yourself to do all these things, and just, what's the one next thing you're gonna do? Just
literally just be like Anna and do the next right thing.
Because what really exists besides that, besides the present, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the future and the past are not happening right now, except for in your brain. So it's...
Yeah, I think I learned how to be present so much more. I remember being younger and feeling like something really cool would happen. Like, I'd have a great day or, like, a great vacation or something, and then I'd get back and be like, oh, I wish I would have, like, felt like I was appreciating it more while it was happening. And now I feel like I've gotten so much better at that, where I can really just, like, turn my phone off, or, you know, just be in the moment of something and, like, look around me and, like, see, you know, people being happy around me or whatever's going on around me, and be like, oh, this is so great that this is happening, and just... being more present and, like, appreciating it more. And maybe that came from having to, like, full stop, having to, like, you had this undercurrent of crippling anxiety with having so much free time, I ignored that. I knew it was there somewhere waiting for me, and it was like, well, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
But I threw myself into my job and ignored it completely and distracted myself with work, so that when it finally hit me, it was like it bowled me over.
Yeah, that's been the biggest consistent lesson I've learned, I think, throughout my life is, so your anxiety comes from like not doing a lot of things, and mine comes from future, like what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen. And this started happening to me when I went to college, because in high school I was so present in high school.
We were.
It was unbelievably blissful. Like, I think about it and I'm just like, I had no worries in the world, which is so funny because high school is often a time when you start getting that.
We
but
had very weird experiences.
we had like the most pure high school experience
really
ever,
did.
Which is so funny because like that's against every other teen
It's because we had each other.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like our friends were just so sweet, and like we were in musicals and we just, did all these like really fun things. But when I went to college, I remember sitting in my dorm for the first time experiencing like this anxiety feeling. In a way, this pandemic made me have to confront this with a different perspective, because I'm a big planner too. Like I had a whole list of trips I wanted to take in 2020. Then all of a sudden with this pandemic, I don't plan anything except for like what's happening next week.
I think if you lean into the not knowing and you don't let it cripple you, like I've let it cripple me,
I think
we all have. I mean, I feel like
It's
everyone does
okay.
that. It's okay, but if you do lean into not knowing, it's sort of exciting, because then you do get to like dream even bigger than you used to allow yourself.
Like, for example, my friend Taylor was working at a hotel for years and had the opportunity to leave her job, and now she has an Etsy shop where she's making masks and doing super well. Gingerbread Couture on Instagram.
Like, I need to get on this because I don't have any of them yet, and they're the cutest freaking masks I've ever seen.
I feel like I'm her spokesperson, but like I think she does such a great job.
She does, and they're very high quality.
They're high quality. She really,
not sponsored, by the way.
Not sponsored, but also like I just want to give my friend a plug because I'm so proud of her. And like she really picks out fabrics that are so unique.
Yeah. And
she has like great quality. They fit well.
When I did quit my job, so many people, like family and just close friends, were like, okay, what do you want to do now? Like, what's your next move? And I was like, I think the wisest thing for me to do right now is to sit down and write out what I want for my life. Like, instead of writing down what my next job might be, I want to write down what makes me happy, what makes me feel fulfilled, what makes me feel, productive and useful. That's something I need to carry into whatever I find next. And like, you learn these things as you go, and it's kind of like dating. Like, you have a job and you leave a job, or you have a job and you lose a job, but you learn something from everything.
Always.
So I think for me, I was just like, I want to figure out what I want my life to look like. That was more the conversation that needed to happen. It wasn't more like, I think our culture is very like, where are you going next? Like, where are you moving? What company are you working for? Is it Fortune 500? Whatever. Like, block out that noise.
Yeah.
That is noise.
Because if you want to work corporate, that's phenomenal. But if you want to open a small bakery in your hometown, that's also phenomenal. If you want to create an online business, or you want to do like life coaching, or you want to do something with fitness or health or art or whatever, like whatever interests you have and really like spark your soul, like those are part of your gifts.
Yeah. Kind of like walking uphill versus like coasting. Like, if you're trying to do something that, maybe just makes you feel drained, and it's not your passion, but it's either what like your family expects of you, or what your friends are doing, or just what you feel like society is telling you should do, and it's just every day is going to feel, I promise you, every day is going to feel like an uphill climb. It's going to feel like a battle.
Another big thing I really did during quarantine was take out that word should. I should do this. I should get this job. I should spend this much time doing this per day. There is no should. Overall, the pandemic has been a big lesson for us, and I'm sure a lot of you guys too. So if you connected to that at all, let us know. Let us know what you learned, because I bet we could learn from you too.
We can all stand to learn from each other, because we all, like we realized we had completely different experiences when this thing started. And, you know, it's led us to a similar place now, but like how interesting that we, you know, felt different anxieties and experienced different, you know, time scarcities and things like that. But yeah, we could stand to learn from each other. So
we're all connected.
Yes.
And we all went through this together.
Yes.
Like, there is not one person who wasn't
Yes.
affected by this.
This is unifying
worldwide.
us if we let it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know what you learned. Let us know what you did. Send those pictures of your quarantine banana bread because I want to see it. That
Until next time.
kind of sums it up.
Yeah, thanks for a lovely conversation, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of ReDIScover.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Your reviews are what keep us going, and we'd love to hear from you.
Join us every Tuesday for a new conversation, and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508. And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
Stay frumpy!